Hello, my name is Casper and welcome in my next episode of the JavaScript Crash Course 2023. In this episode, I will briefly talk about the functions, how it's defined, how it's about the syntax, and how it's done with the JS. So let's start with VS Code and the console log in the right side of the screen. And what is a function basically? Function is the piece of code which is not executed immediately, but is stored to later, and it can make some operation. It's in the simple words, and let me go with one of the functions. Function syntax is pretty simple. So basic function syntax is like defining the function with the function keyword, and then I pass the name of the function, and let's be, for example, multiply, and this function will be multiplying. Then I pass the arguments, parameters, and as the multiplying, this function will occur with the two parameters, two arguments. I want to make a multiplied by b, and in the brackets I pass a and b, and then I open curly brackets, and there is the code to be executed, and with the keyword return I just telling the compiler what this function will return after calling it. So every time the multiply function will be called with the arguments a or b, it will return a multiplied by b. And that's pretty simple how it works. And let's go with the calling the function. And for example, I will declare a variable result is assigned to multiply, and I will pass, for example, 2 and 5. Okay, and it's made. I will console it log, and I expect the result of 10 with the data type number, and it's basically done. What is worth to mention, JavaScript function can be also be defined like an expression, and let me go with that. So I have this console log and the previous function, and I will make an expression and assign it to a variable. So for example, I will define something like constant and some function is equal to function, and then I will skip the function name, pass only variable and arguments and what it's returning. Then I will just remove multiply and type some function. So basically call this expression, and it's working. We can see how it's multiplied. Why the functions are used in the developing? From my opinion, I believe that functions make the code cleaner, so I do not call something immediately and make a memory of an application of a browser totally filled up, and it's just a clean way to make some piece of code, declare the function even in the separate file, and it's done in the serious developing like that. So I declare the separate file and the function and export that, and in the other file, when I have some front end or other backend services, I can easily call that and nest in then another function, and it's pretty clean. For example, I have some serious function for getting data from database, and there are some services about it. So I do not make a super long function like thousands of lines of code. I just make one function which is calling multiple functions from separate files or places in the code base, and its the file structure is like different folders, so with its names, and it's pretty clean way to handle that, not be totally lost in the serious huge code base, and make it super clean. And these are totally two arguments about that, so not execute immediately the code, but for example in some conditions in some places export that and not fill entire memory after the combining the entire function without calling that but immediately. So after this summing up, I will go and make some other functions, and let me start with passing some arguments and examples about that. So I will have a function, for example, I will declare in the old way function, and there will be, for example, we'll be passing multiple arguments, like I will take some function. I don't know exactly what it can be doing right now, but I will pass, for example, some variable a, b, c, d. The function will be here, and I will declare some parameters, and let string is equal to some sort of text. Let array is equal to some array of, for example, fruits, orange, apple, peach. There will be also an object. Let object is equal to, for example, some object with name John, age 30, and for example position, job position, dev, and maybe I'll pass some boolean, so let is employed and equal to true. Okay, the compiler doesn't see the result. Then I will pass all of these variables inside this function, and what this function will make. So I will declare the result, let with const result is equal to some function, and I will call some function with string array object is employed. Of course this is undefined, but after modifying this function, this result will have the value of the returning value. So if I type here return by default 10, it will be 10, yeah, like in the console. But I will make some more complications, and for example I will console log every parameter. So like you see, I pass to the function some function, these identifiers of the variables, and there I have a function with a, b, c, d parameters. So it doesn't have to be exactly the correct name of the prop. in the function definition I can make it like ABCD, and everything what will be passed here in this place will be the current prop. And let me demonstrate it pretty simple. Maybe I will change the order. So right now I will make it with BACD. So it's changed. Yeah. Maybe I will go with 2 A's. Okay, it's like that. And let me go with changing also arguments here, and I will pass string here. It also changed, yeah. First is array, then string. So the order is there, the key. And I will make something like, so D will be always Boolean. It's not clean, but it's only to demonstrate. So if D, so if D is true, I will return, for example, 10, and make a console log. It is true. It is true. I will clean that. And maybe I will go with else. So it's not true, it's false. I will console log. It is false. And return, for example, false. There, true. So the result will have the variable, like in this function, what is returned. So there is an if statement, and if the boolean is employed is true, it will return true. If false, it will return false. What is also made within the function, the console log function is called, and the console will show it properly. Let's check this function. Okay, it is true, and I will set is employed to false. It is false. I will go back to true. It's true. Okay, I have something like that. And what I will do next, maybe I will go through some iterations of array. So if true, I will go through a variable parameter, and for example, what is there, I will map through it, item, arrow function, and for example I will return console log item. So it's iterating. What can I also do is, for example, return object, but the keyword path will pass the name, cname, and we return John as a result. So basically I can do anything in the function, and this is the craziest function you will ever see. So try to make it clean. It's just for demonstration, but in the serious development, let's go through the example how it's proceeded. I will clean. Okay, we're good to go. In serious development, I can go with something like that. I have a function, and for example, sum, and it will take arguments. I will open it. To demonstrate it, the sum function can take some arguments defined outside the function, within the one script. So, but basically I will be coding in this way, and there are some numbers, and for example I can have a parameter numbers from server, something like that, and numbers from interface. So it will be two arrays, and I have to return the sum of them. And for example, I will define there let numbers from server be equal to 2, 8, 9, 6, 12. And then let numbers from interface can be like that. Okay, and I will change names, so array 1, array 2, and what we'll be doing, for example, I will go with let sum is equal to 0, because at the beginning it's 0, and then I have to go through for loop. And what I can do it in the multiple ways, but I will try to make a function inside the function and show you how it can be proceeded, and it's possible. So let's start with the declaration of another function. Function and some elements of array. Make the name correct. There are parameters and there is an array, and what it returns, it goes like that. I will define let sum also, and it's at the beginning 0. Then for loop, for I'll go with let y is equal to 0, semicolon, and it will be less than array dot length, increment the index, and the sum is equal to array, and then index of an array. Okay, so sum is equal to sum plus this I element of an array. So it goes like that. Sum is at the beginning 0. I go through the entire array. We pass the array 1. We are at the first element 0, so I just recall that the first element in the array has an index of 0. So I go through the I equal to 0, and there is the sum equal to this combination of signs is the same like sum is equal to sum plus array I is the same. So basically it goes through the first element and to 0 adds 2. Then loop is going to the next element and is adding to the previous sum the next index, etc. till the array length -1, because it's less, not less and equal, and goes to the last element, and I will return sum. Okay, so I have the functions for summing, and there is an error, some elements of array. So I have the single array, and here some arrays will be more appropriate. I will make similar, so I will start with, I will skip this let sum, let sum, oh maybe I can go with constant sum 1 is equal to some elements of an array, the first argument, and sum 2 is equal to that. I return sum 1 plus sum 2. Okay, so the logic is ready, and I can finally sum these arrays. And let's go with that. So I will go console.log and result, and I will define result constant result is equal to some arrays, and I will pass array 1 and array 2, these two arrays. 52, so basically I can also pass here the console log array 1 sum 1 array 2 sum 2. So the first is 37. Let's quickly check. 2 plus 8, 10, 19, 25, 37, and this 3, 6, 10, 15. Everything is correct. I can delete it. Console logs cleaned. And these functions are working properly, so it's not a big deal to nest a function inside a function. Is how this serious programming is working, and I recommend you doing the same way, cleaning up the code, not making one long script, but using these features of functions. And let's go also for the last point of these functions. And for example, in the ES6 there is something like an arrow function, so the way of defining function is slightly different. So I will leave this, for example, function, and there is some return, for example array, and the arrow function is declared like that, constant, and sum is the name of the function. There is an equal sign, there are arguments, and there I make an arrow which basically defines these arrow functions. Then I can return array. It's pretty the same, it works the same, there is no keyword function, but that's the syntax of the ES6. More modern way, it's used by the modern developers, and that's how the modern developers should code functions. So in the next tutorials I will use this declaration, so everything basically works like that, and it can be called like console log sum, and I will there pass an array 1, 2, 3, and it returns an array that works correctly. Thank you so much for watching this part of the tutorial. Functions are very fundamental things and it has to be mastered to even handle some basic programs, build some applications, and go to the frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue.js. So it's definitely worth of trying, exercising, and trying on your own how to make even a simple calculator. You can skip the UI at this point and just write functions for multiplying, dividing, summing some numbers, subtracting, and displaying the console log. Add some values. It's just a recommendation. You can try it on your own. You will also try some algebra, some if statements, operations on an array, which was mentioned in the previous materials. So you can use all of that packed in one simple program, even without the interface, and try to check your skills and master it, and we will ready to go to the next challenges. Build a real project, go to the DOM manipulation, some algorithms, and to the frameworks, which finally boost your skills and help you get a first job position as a web developer. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next material.